What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex Podcast. This is your fantasy preview for NFL Week 1. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and here to break down the Thursday night slate and the Week 1 main slate with me, one of the top fantasy rankers in the biz, the odds maker, Sean Turner. Sean, what's going on?
What's up? I am super stoked that we finally get to break down a real regular season football game with the Lions and Chiefs. And, oh, by the way, Travis Kelce might miss. So, we're scrambling to figure out our projections. But, yeah, I'm super excited. How you doing?
I'm doing good, just grinding, it's that time of year. And speaking of projections, if you want to hear Sean and I talking some more player projections, be sure to check out the Action Network podcast player projections episode for week 1 over on the Action Network podcast channel. And we will be bringing back our 5-star rating contest here for this podcast. So every week we'll pick our favorite 5-star rating and review, and we'll give away some swag or an Action Network pro sub if you don't have one. So your choice. Just be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review, and we'll pick out our favorite one and announce it starting on next week's podcast. So for this pod, what we do, we break down a Thursday night DFS showdown slate. Then we hop into some of our favorite stacks, our favorite dart throws for the main slate, and then we're gonna build some lineups, and we're gonna do it a little different this year. I'll talk about that as we get to that point in the show, but we will be switching it up. Should be fun. But let's start with Thursday night. Lions at the Chiefs. The spread down to 5.5 in favor of the Chiefs. The total still 54. Travis Kelce, hyperextended knee in practice, may miss the game. It's not much turnaround time here with the Thursday start. So it seems at this point, as we record this on late Tuesday, seems like he will miss, but you never know. So Sean, who is going to be your favorite captain spot play now that, I'm assuming Mahomes and Mahomes is kind of maybe off the table too for you, or?
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes might be contrarian now. I think a lot of people are going to pivot away from Mahomes, but I'm sticking with the guy I was going to talk with before the Kelce news. I'm going with Dave Montgomery. I think he's the sneaky pick for this slate because he might not even be the most popular running back play from his own team in the captain slot. I think a lot of people are going to want to use Jahmyr Gibbs in his debut, and rightfully so. He could see a ton of work in the passing game in this game. So he's a sensible play, but I think Montgomery's a sneaky one because there is a path for Monty to win this slate. He's going to be taking over the Jamal Williams role likely. So I expect him to get pretty much every goal line snap. So there's a chance he can score 2 touchdowns here on the ground, which would certainly make him the play to take down this slate. Everybody's talking about Travis Kelce potentially missing the game. Obviously that's massive, but Chris Jones, he's still in the middle of his holdout. That could, he's probably going to miss tomorrow night's game as well. So that's going to boost Monty even more because last season when Chris Jones was on the field, opponents averaged 4.3 yards per attempt. When he was off the field, they averaged 5.8 yards per attempt. So without Travis Kelce, I could see this being a closer game where the Lions can lean on the run. So I think Monty could have a huge game here. Probably going to be overlooked, especially in the captain slot. So he's my favorite play in the captain slot right now.
Yeah, I think it's 28-1 future on Monty to lead the league in rushing touchdowns. So I hope you are correct. I hope we get off to a good start in week 1. I was initially going to go Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs always score so many points in week 1. They've been over 30, I believe, in 6 of the last 7. They're just great, with that long rest and preparation time. But, this is a curveball, not much time to kind of adjust if Kelce's going to be out or even limited. So I do still like Mahomes as a contrarian play. I think he'll spread the ball around if Kelsey's out, and we know better than to doubt Mahomes. He could still put up 300 yards and 3 scores. But I'm gonna go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's another guy with massive upside. You get him at a little bit of a discount to Mahomes and a guy like Kelsey, but he posted 5 games of 20 or more DraftKings points last season, 3 games of 20 or more FanDuel points, had a high of 42. Chiefs cornerback L'Jarius Sneed's been a little bit banged up, been missing some time, so that might affect him. Who's probably going to have to cover St. Brown a lot because Sneed is the guy who can kind of go inside outside the most. So I think it's a good matchup. I think the Chiefs will still score points. The total's still 54, even though the line's moving toward the Lions. I think this Detroit offense, really, there's just value all over. So love me some St. Brown. I have him as my wide receiver 4 this week, across the entire NFL. So love him in this Thursday night slate in the captain spot.
Yeah, no, I love this as well. I guess I'm rooting for your pick to be right because I have a future on Amon-Ra to lead the league in receptions at 18-1. And that was Cooper Kupp, missing week 1 makes that look a lot better. And now Kelsey, who's a contender in that market. But yeah, I think Chris Jones' absence could help Amon-Ra as well because, the Chiefs ranked 7th in pressure rate when he was on the field last year and dropped down to 21st in pressure rate when he was off the field. And Goff had the second highest discrepancy in yards per attempt when facing pressure versus a clean pocket. So he'll probably have more time to hit his number 1 target, Amon-Ra. So yeah, I think you can't go wrong with either of these guys.
All right, who do you like for value plays, kind of mid-range, or just guys you think are great values?
Yeah, so for the Lions, I got to go with my boy Sam Laporta here. His rostership, I don't know what it'll be tomorrow, but it's probably going to be lower than it should be because there's a decent chance he's going to be a top 2, top 3 target for Jared Goff out of the gate. Most rookie tight ends get off to slow starts, but Laporta probably won't be asked to block as much as your typical rookie tight end, which should help his transition to the NFL. I think he's pretty much just a receiver at this point, so he could start his career with a bang similar to T.J. Hawkinson. We reference his debut where he caught like 9 catches for 150 yards or something. So he has that kind of upside. So just trying to invest in Laporta early and often. I think this is the perfect slate to do it. And then on the Chiefs side, there's so many options now with Travis Kelce potentially missing. I think Noah Gray is obviously in play now, but I'm still sticking with Richie James is probably my favorite value play for the Chiefs. I think he could see a decent amount of playing time out of the slot early on. Kadarius Toney looks like he will play, but have to assume he's going to be very limited. So we could see a ton of Richie James, especially since Rashee Rice, Justin Ross might get eased into action earlier in the season. So I could see them leaning on James, a veteran like James, especially with Kelce out. So I wouldn't be shocked if Richie James puts up like a 4 or 5 catch game for 40 to 50 yards and potentially a touchdown. So he could be a sneaky play on this slate.
Yeah, and Kadarius Toney is priced up as the most expensive Chief wide receiver, which I don't think that should be the case, at least not yet. We got to see him actually stay on the field and lead them, or get pretty close to leading them in routes run. So I do like Richie James. I think he will. I think he has a chance to even be a top 3 in terms of routes run. If Toney goes back to being that more of that 25 to 35% guy that he was down the stretch last year. For me, a couple guys on Detroit. Josh Reynolds is only 2,800 on DraftKings. He averaged an 88% route participation rate in 8 games without Jamison Williams last year. 3.7 catches, 51 yards, and about 0.3 touchdowns in those games. And I think the top 4 is going to be Amon-Ra, Josh Reynolds, Marvin Jones, and Khalif Raymond. We don't know exactly how much those 3 after Amon-Ra, like exactly how they're going to split the snaps up, but Reynolds coming in here at 2,800, I think he has a good chance to be among the top 3 of those guys in routes run, and just still expecting a high scoring game. So anytime you can get a guy that averaged over 50 yards a game, which again he did in the games without Jameson Williams, who's suspended, I think you got to take it. So that's kind of another guy. If you're going with Amon-Ra as the captain, Goff, you need to stack one or two more. I think Reynolds makes for a great choice at just 2,800. And then on the Chiefs side, I think Sky Moore is a pretty good value in that mid range. 4,800. He's cheaper than Kadarius Toney, but he is expected to be kind of in that top two in terms of routes for Kansas City receivers because again, Toney's more of a gadget guy. Richie James, the slot guy, but Sky Moore, the reports where he's been on the field pretty much every formation, 2 wide, 3 wide, whatever not. So I do think he has a chance to be either the number 1 or number 2 receiver for this game. Obviously, his target rate on a per route basis now with Kelsey in doubt projects higher. And there's a chance if Kelsey does play, he's a decoy. So either way, Sky Moore has a pretty decent chance to be the top target in this offense. And that's obviously very valuable, especially going against this Lion defense, who I think they'll be better, but, they kind of changed out their whole cornerback unit. It might take some time to gel and get everything together. And we know KC is always going to have a good plan in week 1, Kelsey or not. So I'm still expecting good things from Mahomes. And if you're going Mahomes in the captain spot, to go more in the regular lineup, but I would also take a couple of shots at Moore in the captain spot because again, I think he has probably the best chance of non-Kelsey Chiefs pass catchers to lead the team in receiving. So like me some Sky Moore at 4,800 in that mid range.
Yeah, I think at this point he's got to be the favorite to lead the team in receptions and yards and everything. I'm just worried his price point's so cheap that he might be pretty chalky, but hopefully, people are kind of distracted with Kadarius Toney, even though he's expensive, and maybe like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who I honestly think like his target share might not be impacted by Kelsey being out at all.
Yeah, right.
So hopefully people are sleeping on Sky Moore, but yeah, he should be the favorite to lead the team in receiving this week.
All right, what about dart throws? Those super cheap guys.
All right, so for the Lions, I am really going with the dart throw here. Antoine Green. He is a true showdown slate play here. But I think, with Jameson Williams out, obviously it's going to be a 3-way committee between like Marvin Jones, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond for most of the routes. However, Green might actually be the real Jameson Williams replacement, a guy that'll play 8 games and maybe just get 1 catch for 40 yards and a touchdown kind of guy. Like that's him. I mean, he's a 7th round pick out of UNC. Like he's a deep threat specialist. He's fast. 31% of his targets last year were 20 plus yards downfield. That was 11th highest rate of the 117 wide receivers in this draft class. And he flashed that off in preseason. He caught a 75-yard touchdown to essentially close the half from Teddy Bridgewater. So he could break this slate on a single catch. I'm guessing his rostership will be like under 2% or something ridiculous, but he is the actual Jameson Williams replacement. So love him on this slate. And on the Chiefs side, for a dart throw, I would have to say Clyde Edwards-Helaire, just because, he's clearly the number 3 back, but he could see a bit more work here just because I do think they're going to ease Isaiah Pacheco in. He missed most of camp and preseason coming back from his shoulder surgery. So either way, I think Helaire is going to get some work here. Plus with the, news of Kelsey potentially missing, the Chiefs are probably going to rely on their running backs even more. So that gives Helaire an even bigger bump. I think most people have just given up on Clyde Edwards-Helaire and will ignore him in the slate. But I think for a showdown slate, he's definitely sneaky.
Yeah, I think, Matt Nagy coming back as the offensive coordinator. He hasn't been here since 2017. I still think Pacheco is far and away the most talented back in that backfield. But, you make a good point. It's week 1. Pacheco's been out. So, and it just looks like Edwards-Helaire is going to be more of a factor this year than he was last year when he essentially was benched, healthy or not. So, I think Edwards-Helaire might surprise some people And you never know, Andy Reid backfield. You never know.
Exactly.
For me, I got to go Khalif Raymond here. I mean, he's so cheap. $800 on DraftKings. That is a glitch. I don't know how that happened, but there's a non-zero chance that Raymond is among that top three. You know, we kind of thinking of him as probably that number 4 guy behind with Jones and Reynolds on the outside and Amon-Ra in the slot, but Raymond averaged a 73% route participation rate in 10 games without Jamison Williams last season. Now, some of those games, DJ Chark was out and, Reynolds was missing some games too. So it's not a 1-for-1 thing, but Raymond got a contract extension and they love him. And he's always kind of more involved than you think. Like even when Jamison Williams came back, Raymond was still a little bit more involved than I think people thought. So I'm willing to take a lot of shots on Raymond here, who, I mean, $800, that's just egregious, for a guy who I would expect to get multiple catches at a minimum. He averaged 3 catches for 37 in the 10 games without Williams. But yeah, I would expect at least 2 catches. He is a fast guy. He'll also return some kicks here and there, some punts. So you could get a couple extra cracks at a touchdown that way. Maybe you stack them with the Detroit defense, special teams or something like that. But a lot of ways to kind of fill out your lineups and cash games. I mean, he's pretty much got to be a lock.
Yeah,
I think. And on the other side, same thing for Noah Gray. If Kelsey plays, I'd like Gray more because I think people will be off of him, and Gray will get more playing time than usual. But Gray was approaching a 40% route participation rate last season, and that was with Kelsey playing in every game. So if Gray plays more, he's going to be underpriced sitting there at 2,400. But if Kelsey does play, I think Gray is kind of sneaky because then people will be off of him. And, we're all kind of thinking about all these wide receivers. They'll probably have 6, maybe even 7 wide receivers active in this game. We're all going to kind of forget about the tight ends. And, Joe Fortson, their other tight end, is on injured reserve. So Gray, Fortson was a little bit more of a receiver, red zone guy. Gray might have to take over some of that role because Blake Bell, the other tight end, he's like a true blocker. He's older at this point, not really much of a threat. But Gray entering year 3, could see a little bit of a step forward for him. So I like me some Noah Gray.
Yeah, the 800 price tag for Raymond has to be a typo. I'm guessing they didn't mean $8,000. They probably meant 2,800, which is how much Josh Reynolds is. But I have them basically even in my projections. So yeah, if you're playing cash lineups, he's a no-brainer. But Antoine Green, he's 200. I think after his 1 catch for 40 yards and a touchdown, he'll look super cheap too. But Raymond at 800 is obviously a misprice.
Okay, let's jump over to the main slate, and let's start out. Just talk some quarterbacks you're using, some guys you're going to be stacking in tournaments.
Yeah, so the first one is obviously I've been talking up Zay Jones heading into week 1, but I think that for week 1, I definitely have to have some Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley stacks, especially against the Colts. This secondary is very shaky heading into the season, so I think that this will be the week to kind of hit the ground running with Lawrence and Ridley. From all reports and what I saw in preseason, Ridley looks as good as we remember he was in 2020, so definitely want to load up on them this week. I think another good one is Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson against the Cardinals. They have really great chemistry, like all throughout the preseason. Even when Terry McLaurin was in there, it was like Dotson was Howell's guy. So Terry might play. He might be limited this week. Their tight end situation is in flux. So I think this could be a huge week for Jahan Dotson and for Sam Howell against the Cardinals. So love them. And for the Rams, I think even though Cooper Kupp's out, I want to make some stacks around them. So I think Matthew Stafford and Tyler Higbee, obviously, sprinkled in with Tutu Atwell, who I think could be running route on about 80% of Stafford's dropbacks this week. He's a deep threat kind of guy, could catch a couple, long gains here. So I think that stack is also kind of sneaky, especially with, the Seahawks secondaries banged up right now. Jamal Adams has already been ruled out. Devin Witherspoon might not play, so it could be an easy matchup for Stafford. And he's gonna have to throw it to somebody with Cooper Kupp out. So I think that's a sneaky stack this week.
Yeah, I love the Ram stacks because, as I mentioned, I think that defense is going to struggle. I think Geno has a good matchup. I think that Seattle offense has a good matchup. So I do think the Rams are going to have to throw it a lot in this game. And it's Matthew Stafford. So he's still going to be able to complete passes and kind of go up and down the field. Not as efficiently without Kupp, but, I think, Atwell, Van Jefferson, Higbee, probably even Nakua, I think even is worth a dart throw. He'll probably get a good amount of playing time as well. But yeah, I like that Atwell call. I love me some Tutu. I'm glad he's finally going to get a little bigger role. I'm excited to see what he can do. For me, the game that sticks out is that Dolphin Charger game. The total 51. So I do want the quarterbacks on both sides of that. They're pretty affordable. Justin Herbert's under 7K on DraftKings. A little more expensive on FanDuel at 8,100. So I prefer him on DraftKings. But the Herbert Mike Williams stack, very affordable, 6,900 for Herbert on DraftKings, 5,700 for Williams. And then if you want to just go full on game stack, obviously Keenan Allen, 7,300, can include him. I also think Joshua Palmer would be sneaky. He's probably going to open the year, or not probably, almost certainly is going to open the year as the number 3 wide receiver over Quentin Johnson. That's the reports we've heard. And he's only 4K on DraftKings. So again, I think Justin Herbert is going to lead the league in passing yards. I think they're going to play at a ridiculous pace. I think he's going to be going down the field. So I wouldn't mind a, Herbert, Williams, Palmer stack, because I think Allen probably going to catch the most underneath balls. So, you could roster Allen. You don't need the quarterback. If Allen's killing for you, he's probably getting 10 catches. But, Williams, Palmer, I think they could do things a little more down the field. So like that one. Tua, obviously, it's Hill or Waddle or both. You're not really going into anybody else on that Dolphin squad. I also like Geno Smith, is kind of on the opposite side of that Stafford stack. I'm going to have exposure to both sides of that game as well. I think that Rams defense is going to make for a pretty good fantasy afternoon for everybody involved. And Geno's only 6,100 on DraftKings, just 7,200 on FanDuel. Love him stacked with Lockett, Metcalf, and if Smith and Jigba plays, I'll even sprinkle some in with him. But I think should be the Metcalf and Lockett show. Remember, no Jalen Ramsey and no Taylor Rapp, no Nick Scott. I mean, it's the secondary's just been decimated from last year. So those guys should be running. One of those guys should be running free all day in the back of that Rams secondary. I think an interesting one, especially on DraftKings, is Deshaun Watson at 6K. Going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. You're gonna have Joe Burrow putting up numbers. We know Joe Burrow is gonna get his. So, for Cleveland, at some point, they're probably gonna have to throw the football. And we know Deshaun can run, and we don't know how well he can throw the football, but at 6K, I'm willing to kind of take some chances here. You could stack him with Amari Cooper. Elijah Moore, also very cheap, just 3,800 on DK. So a lot of options. Njoku, I mean, I would stack him with DPJ, Njoku, Cooper, or Moore. A combination of two of those four in every lineup. So, and all of those are pretty affordable. Jordan love him at 5K on DraftKings, 6,400 on FanDuel, stacked with Christian Watson, who just makes touchdowns out of thin air, and could throw in some Luke Musgrave or some Romeo Doubs as well. That Bear defense, I expect it to be better, but they're relying on a lot of young guys in that secondary. We'll see how much better they are right off the jump in week 1. I tend to think they'll kind of improve as the year goes on. So love this week.
Yeah, I think the one I didn't think about that I love is the Justin Herbert stack with just Josh Palmer somewhere in there. So like with Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, because I think people, including myself, want to see Quentin Johnson be the number 3 receiver, but that's just not the case right now. Josh Palmer is clearly the number 3 receiver. So I think people are sleeping on him. His rostership should be like super low this week. But yeah, just getting him in some stacks with Herbert is just a great way to go.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're gonna have Xavier Howard in, kind of going back to more of a more of a zone heavy scheme this year under. They got Fangio, right? They hired Fangio.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit of a different defense. So Howard struggled a lot in man coverage last year, but he's still pretty solid in his zone. So, it could be like maybe a Palmer, Keenan Allen stack, if, kind of with those two deep safeties that Fangio loves to run, you get that underneath stuff, and then hope Palmer can hit a big play just for cheap, or maybe just rack up a bunch of catches, get a touchdown, something. So yeah, I kind of like that Allen Palmer stack as a way to kind of save money, save money as well. But Williams is so cheap that I think you have to include him as well. Okay, let's talk about just some dart throws. I know you like Jordan Love at quarterback. We already talked about him. Let's just go to running back.
Okay.
I think that's where the real interesting guys lie. Who do you like for dart throws at running back?
Yeah, so I mentioned him on our previous pod, but Deion Jackson, especially at 4,100, is in play. I think people will be shied away from the situation, even though there's a ton of upside. But it's going to be a three-way committee between Jackson, Zach Moss, and Evan Hull. But I would still lean Jackson because he should see the biggest workload out of the gate. Zach Moss is coming back from the broken arm, could limit him early on. I don't think the Colts will trust Evan Hull in pass protection in week one. So I think Jackson could see 10 to 15 touches in week one. A lot of receiving work as well. So especially on a full PPR site like DK, he is in play for me. And the other guy, my bet on talent heading in the season is Khalil Herbert against the Packers at 5,300. He's probably going to offer the most value early in the season just because he's going to be the week one starter. They're probably going to lean on him heavier out of the gate, but we could see Deontay Foreman, Roschon Johnson offer more value at times as the season goes on. But I think for week one, this is the time to invest in Khalil Herbert. I think he's extremely talented. I think he could hang on to the number one job all year, but just especially week one, we got to use him, especially against the Packers defense. They ranked 31st in DVOA against the run last year. So I love this matchup, love the player, and I think his rostership will be a bit lower than it should be. So those are my two favorite value plays right now.
Yeah, and I actually don't mind Herbert on DraftKings because he breaks big runs, and so he has that shot at that 100-yard bonus where I know he's not projected to catch many passes, so a lot of people might gravitate to using him more on FanDuel. But I think his explosiveness and the fact that you get that 3-yard bonus probably makes him a better DraftKings play, because I think if he's probably to really pay off, he's probably going to need 100 yards plus, because he's not catching passes. So might as well get the 3 extra points for it. Like Jackson as well. And I have kind of a contrarian pivot off of Jackson. He's cheaper. He's 100 more expensive on DraftKings and 700 cheaper on FanDuel. And that's Kenny Gainwell. I have no idea how this Philly backfield is going to shake out. But what I do know is that Gainwell is the guy that has been reportedly essentially the guy that's going to play more than we initially thought. It's like Swift, we still it's kind of up in the air. Rashad Penny's probably going to play a little less than we initially thought, but Gainwell's the guy that's really kind of screwing up all these projections. So I'll take a shot at him at 4,200 on DK, 4,900 on FanDuel, especially when I think there is going to be more gravitation toward Deion Jackson, especially with Jonathan Taylor being out. So Jackson's probably going to be a guy that I think builds some hype as the week goes on, whereas no one really knows what the heck is going to is happening with Gainwell. So I think he has a chance at 5% or below. Maybe he gets a little higher, but either way, I think now is a good time to buy him. He did average 11 carries and 3 targets in the postseason, so I don't think he gets quite that many, but he has a chance, especially if the Eagles are in positive game script, so like me some Gainwell at running back.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's impossible to project them right now. Just there's too much uncertainty, which is bad for season-long head-to-head formats or cash games. But GPPs,
Yep.
that's what it's all about. Like he could see 10 plus touches in this offense, would be a winner. So yeah, I'm down for that in GPPs. All other formats, I'm staying away. But
oh yeah, no cash games. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what you want. You want volatility. His rostership will probably be lower than it should be in GPPs. So yeah, I didn't think of that, but yeah, love that call.
All right, wide receiver. We talked about Tutu Atwell already. Who else you like?
Well, yeah, just I like a trio of receivers that are 3K. Tutu Atwell being the first one, Trey Palmer, Marvin Mims. So I think all three of these guys are worth flyers in GPPs this week. They're set for much bigger week one roles than anticipated due to injuries, and they're all receivers that can win downfield. So they can break this slate with only one or two catches. So these are the guys, that are min price that I'm absolutely going to be sprinkling in most of my GPP lineups. Like I love Trey Palmer's upside and Marvin Mims as well. He's one of my favorite deep threats from this rookie class. So all three of these guys I'm going to have a ton of this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of options here at the minimum price because, a lot of guys kind of came into roles after the pricing was already released. So I like those guys. Jaden Reed, another rookie at min price, should be the starting slot receiver for the Packers. Like him as well. Jonathan Mingo, we'll pay attention to what happens with that Carolina receiving core, but Chark and Marshall are a little banged up. But Mingo may still be a top 3 guy for them, even with Marshall healthy and Chark healthy. So he's at 3,200 on DK, 4,500 on FanDuel. He's interesting. The Falcons have AJ Terrell, one of the corner spots, but the second spot, that other outside spot, bit of a question mark. Okuda got hurt, so there could be some openings there. And Elijah Moore, I mentioned him already, 3,800 on DraftKings. Really like him there. 57 on FanDuel. Little not as don't like him as much there, but I think 3,800 on DK is way too cheap. He'll be used as a kind of a gadget guy, but we know he can also catch the football and has a chance to kind of leapfrog Donovan Peoples-Jones and be that number 2 receiver in that offense. So I want to buy him while his price is still low. And Puka Nacua, I think, is another guy. Tutu and Puka are both min price on DraftKings, and Puka's also min priced on FanDuel. So I do think he gets a pretty decent amount of playing time here in week 1 with Cooper Kupp out. So interested in him as well. Because again, I just think the Rams are going to be having to throw the ball because their defense is going to give up points going back the other way. Okay. Let's go to tight end. Who do you like for dart throws there?
Yeah, so obviously Tyler Higbee sticks out like a sore thumb at 4,800, but going a little bit deeper down, I think Irv Smith Jr. at 3,600 makes a ton of sense. Seems like an under the radar play. I don't know if his rostership's going to be too high, but he's taking over the Hayden Hurst role and could be a top 3, top 4 target for Joe Burrow most weeks. So, and he's very talented, former 2nd round pick. He's fully healthy right now. So this would be the time to kind of take a flyer on him. And speaking of the guy Irv Smith is replacing, I think Hayden Hurst at 3K is sneaky as well. He might not be the most efficient tight end, but he's going to see a ton of routes. I think he's going to be averaging 70, 80% routes run rate most weeks. So that's a no-brainer play when you can get him at min price. But yeah, if I'm not going Tyler Higbee, I think these guys towards the bottom are offering the most value right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's going to be tight ends. It's all about routes. That's just kind of what we are looking for. There's only so many guys that have the talent of a Kelsey or a Kittle or whatnot. So everybody else, you're just kind of hoping that you get enough routes that you can get those 4 or 5 catches and hopefully a touchdown. For me, one of the guys I'll throw in there is Luke Musgrave, rookie tight end, but expected to start right off the bat for Green Bay, can do some things down the field. So not just an underneath low ADOT guy, and 2,900 on DraftKings, 4,500 on FanDuel. great price, fits perfectly with, you could go Jordan Love, Christian Watson, and Musgrave. Super cheap stack, lets you pay up at a lot of other positions. So like Musgrave, just based on, again, just routes. I'm projecting Musgrave to be on the field for at least 2/3 of the snaps right off the bat for the Green Bay Packers, and in a pretty easy matchup. At least it looks like on paper, against the Bears. All right. So I mentioned earlier we were going to kind of switch things up a little bit. So last year, what we did was we kind of alternated building a DraftKings and a FanDuel lineup. Sean would make a pick, I would make a pick, Sean would make a pick, I would make a pick. This year, we're going to try something a little different. We're going to build lineups, but we're going to build one lineup each on DraftKings and then do the same for FanDuel. And essentially, Sean will make a pick, and then I can't pick that player. So we'll have no overlap, and then we'll also be able to track our lineups head to head, see who's doing better and who's getting more value out of their picks. So should be fun. Nice little friendly competition, since we, on the Action Network projections pod, we do our props and we kind of track that throughout the year. So this will just give us another way to have some friendly competition, and also twice as many lineups. So everybody wins. So I'll let you get the first pick on DraftKings, since I am hosting. So
and then you get FanDuel first pick. There's a lot to pick from. I think I'm gonna just have to go with the guy I think is the most value on DK right now. So I'm going with Deion Jackson, saving some cash here.
So you got Deion Jackson. I will start off with, give me my man, freshly skinny, odd number year, time to ball out, just 5,500, Deebo Samuel.
Oh, there we go. Oh, nice. Potential George Kittle news, huh?
Even if George Kittle is 100, this is extremely cheap.
I just haven't updated projections with Kittle potentially being out. So yeah, he would go way up. Nice.
Cheaper than he's been at any point last year. 5,500
wow.
is cheaper than his price at any point on DK last year.
Wow.
Always like to buy low on like a year low.
I'm gonna just go with this guy because I'm worried you might snipe him for me. There's a lot of value at tight end, but I'm going with our boy Tyler Higbee at 4,800.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's even priced that high. I mean, I'm used to getting Tyler Higbee at like 3,700. Like, I'm projecting him for like 5.5 catches, and
he's not a slam dunk, but especially like if Kittle misses, like he'll stick out a little bit more. There are some nice cheap options, but he's either way, he's still too cheap right now.
Let's go Alexander Madison, 6,500 on DK. Got him as an RB1, way above consensus. Expecting Minnesota to run with more heavy personnel, so I expect them to have decent success here. Home favorite back, all things I like. So let's do it.
I'm doing it. I'm going with the quarterback, probably the guy that you were looking for, but Justin Herbert at 6,900. I think it's easier. Like, there's some cheap guys I like at quarterback, but I think it's probably going to be easier to take a stud like him and just go cheaper elsewhere, just with all the injuries popping up. So I'm going to have to go with Herbert here.
Oh, no, I don't hate that at all. I love Herbert. Yeah. I think he's probably the best, one of the best, if not the best, dollar-for-dollar play.
Yeah.
Especially on DK. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, the Commanders are 2,800 against the Josh Dobbs, Clinton Toon, Arizona Cardinals. Give me that. Give me that. Give me that.
Nice.
So just to recap, I got Madison, Deebo, and the Commanders D so far, and you got Herbert, Deion Jackson, and Tyler Higbee.
Yep. I'm going to have to go with I'm going to go with receiver. I'm going to have to go with my boy, Cortland Sutton. Sign me up for 5,200 right now. Yeah.
It's that, but that just speaks to how mispriced Deebo is. Like, Deebo is like
that is
300 more than Sutton. That's like that's a different tier of a receiver. But Yeah, Sutton likely to be that number one guy in week 1. Let's go with Calvin Ridley at 6,500. Pretty solid price. Hit the ground running for a guy that I think could be a top 5. Has top 5 upside when it's all said and done.
For sure. I'm gonna have to take another receiver as well. I'm gonna counter your Debo and take the other receiver for the Niners, Brandon Ayuk. I think he's due for a big season. I've been hearing good things. He's looked great. So if Kittle is out this week, I want some shares of one of these receivers. So give me Ayuk.
Ayuk only 4,900. That is a great price. These Niners are just. I mean, I know it's low scoring game, but yeah, those are still great prices. Let's go with Joe Mixon at 6,800. Yep. Another guy's in my top 12.
Nice. I'm gonna go with Austin Eckler. I'm gonna spend up here, get myself every Chargers touchdown with Herbert and Eckler.
Love it.
Little nice sneaky floor ceiling combo there.
I go with Mark Andrews at 6,200.
Man, you really screwed me over with that Commanders pick. I didn't see that. Defense is brutal. I'm gonna have to just spend up and take the Ravens at 4K. I was considering either them or like the Jaguars. I think are the only other options, but I'm gonna have to spend up. But yeah, in hindsight, I should have taken Commanders' first pick overall.
I mean, they are great value.
2,800. We don't even know which quarterback they're facing yet, but my God. And I still have 5,900 per player left over, so I don't mind spending up for defense, especially for week 1.
Let's go Chris Godwin, wide receiver 3. Nice. Mike Evans might be a little banged up. Tampa Bay. I got the Madison running back, so there's a little correlation and whatnot. Godwin had 1 game with fewer than 10 points on DraftKings last year. So yeah, let's go Godwin.
I'm gonna go with Jahan Dotson at 5K. Even if Terry plays this week, I think he's still gonna lead the team in receiving. So just the easy matchup, chemistry, Sam Howell. Love Dotson at 5K.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I was looking at him too. I'll go with my boy Anthony Richardson at QB, 5,600. 42 left over in the flex.
Man, I have 6,700 left over. I wish Alexander Madison was available because he's 6,500. I'm gonna have to go with the next best option, Aaron Jones at 6,300. So I'm actually leaving $400 on the table, which isn't great for like a cash game, but I just love the matchup. Especially on DK, full point PPR, can't pass him up here. So that's my flex play.
Yeah, no, I like that. All right, yeah, my flex is going to be a little bit tougher. I got 4,200. Let's see. Give me some Elijah Moore. I'm gonna leave some money on the table and go for some upside here too.
How much money do you have on the table?
I have 400 on the table.
Oh, okay.
So Richardson at quarterback at 5,600, Madison 6,500, Mixon at 6,800 at running back, wide receivers Debo at 5,500, Ridley at 65, Godwin 59, Mark Andrews, my tight end, at 6,200, Moore 3,800 flex, and then Commanders D at 2,800.
Nice.
Who you got? Just recap your.
So I got Justin Herbert at quarterback, 6,900. Deion Jackson at running back with 4,100. Austin Eckler to pair with my Justin Herbert at 8,400. At wide receiver, I have Cortland Sutton, Brandon Ayuk, Jahan Dotson. Tight end, I went with Tyler Higbee. And my flex, I have Aaron Jones. And for defense, I spent up and went with the Baltimore Ravens against the Houston Texans.
Love it. All right, let's jump over to FanDuel. Let's try to do this a little quicker.
Yeah.
I shall go first. I'm going to go with Higbee here. On FanDuel, he's 5,300.
Nice. This is where I will go with Anthony Richardson at 6,700.
All right, let's see. Running back, I'm going to go with Bijan Robinson, only 7,800 here.
I was going with him next. Damn it. I haven't put him on my lineup. I got to X him out now.
Nice.
That was a good one. All right. Well, that throws me off a little bit. I'm going to go with Raheem Mostert for FanDuel specifically. That running back room thinned out heading into week 1. So I think he'll be a better play on FanDuel. So let's go with Mostert. And he's only 5,900.
Yeah, I was looking at him over on DK, but he's an even better value.
And against the Chargers run D too.
Yep. Oh yeah, they're bottom 5. Okay. Give me some Tyler Lockett at 6,800.
Similar price range. I'm going wide receiver. I'm going with Christian Watson. At 6,300. Not a big, not a ton of receptions, but can score from anywhere. So I think he probably is a better FanDuel play.
I'm gonna take Madison again. Madison again. 7,300.
You have to.
Yeah, the running back values are pretty good on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Not as much sticks out. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go Madison there at 7,300.
Another wide receiver. I'm gonna go with Amari Cooper at 6,700. I think that's probably a stinky play on FanDuel. Yeah.
Let's go. I'll go Jahan Dotson here, 6,100.
Nice. All right. Yeah, it seems like all the values in between like the 6 and 7K at wide receiver on FanDuel.
Yep.
I'm gonna spend up at running back. I'm gonna go with Austin Eckler again on this at 9K.
The Commanders again.
There you go.
4,900.
49. Whew. I'm gonna spend up at receiver, so I'll go Tyreek Hill at 8,800.
All right. So I got wide receiver and flex. I got 6,850 average left to spend, or no, wide receiver, flex, and a quarterback. I'll go Herbert here. Go head to head with your Eckler.
There you go. Let's go the cheaper route. Let's go with Irv Smith Jr. 4,900.
I'll go Michael Thomas. 6K.
Nice.
Good FanDuel type of play.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm left with 7,500, which means the top player available to me is Joe Mixon. And I do think he has a high floor. I don't know which backup's going to steal work from him, but good matchup against the Browns too. So $0 left on the table for my team.
Let's go with some T. Higgins, 7,400. So
Nice.
I'll leave 300 on the table. So I got Herbert at 8,100 at quarterback, Bijan at 7,800 at running back with Madison 73. Wide receivers, Tyler Lockett at 6,800, Dotson at 6,100, Michael Thomas at 6K, and T. Higgins at 7,400. Higbee, the tight end, at 53, and Washington again at 49.
Nice. So I went Anthony Richardson at QB 6,700. For running back, I went with Raheem Mostert, Austin Eckler, and then at wide receiver, I went Christian Watson, Amari Cooper, Tyreek Hill, trying to get as many Dolphins and Chargers as I can. Tight end, I went with Irv Smith. In the flex, I took Joe Mixon. And for my defense, going with the Seattle Seahawks against the Rams at 4,200.
A little bit of a discount there. I see you. All right. So that is going to do it for us here on the Fantasy Flex. Again, be sure to check out our fantasy projections pod for week 1 over on the Action Network podcast channel. And every Friday morning this season, Sean and I will bring back the night shift episode here for the Fantasy Flex, where we preview the Sunday and Monday Night Football DFS slates. Check out actionnetwork.com for all of our NFL betting and fantasy content, fantasylabs.com for our DFS tools and models. You can find Sean on X at @_oddsmaker, me at Chris Raybon, and we're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get to shmoney.